biggest and oldest law firm. And I've been working in the legal tech space in India for about 5+ years now, and have been interacting with stakeholders at all levels, whether it is the founders or it is the buyers, which is the law firms, or the legal operators at the in-house counsel side who are also looking to buy a product. So that's me. I'm going to be talking about the challenges, particularly in the context of law firms. They face the challenges that they face while looking at tech adoption, um, and really how they could probably remedy that, based on my experiences of working in this space. Um, so before we jump into all of that, just a couple of quick stats, right? So Walter Kluwer ran a survey, and this is fairly recent. This is 2023, and 87% of the lawyers, so that's like a huge majority, felt that tech is an established part of their profession and it actually improves their day-to-day life, which is sort of expected, especially given the fact that now you have generations that have been tech enabled and have known uh, what the internet is since they have grown up. So that makes perfect sense. But despite all of this, almost half the lawyers felt that they were not fully leveraging tech, right? And this is really where we're going to be looking at what you could do better. Even if you, let's say, buy that tech, very often you'll find that nobody is really using it. So, what you could do to sort of fix it. And in all of this, of course, there is all of that chatter about generative AI, right? And ChatGPT and what it would do. And of course, there is a lot of hula hooping around it taking over all of lawyers' jobs, which I don't think is going to happen. And a lot of very smart people also believe is not going to happen. But despite all of that, according to the survey, 73%, again, like a massive majority, felt that generative AI would be integrated in their legal work. So that's just to give a sense of context to what people are generally sensing and feeling at this point of time. So let's just go back to what it means to have tech at your law firm and what it means to really sort of have a good implementation and adoption strategy. And there is, of course, the usual, right, that people will talk about: train your lawyers, have them use it in their daily day-to-day work, and you know, create more sensitizing campaigns. Um, but really, I think what a lot of uh, tech product implementations, strategies, and just people running it or decision makers tend to do wrong is that they start with the tech and not with everything else that needs to come before that, right? So tech is not a silver bullet, and it's not going to fix all of your problems. If something is going wrong, it is more likely to be like a people problem or a process problem than a tech problem. And the thing is, if you get great tech off the shelf and really, really expensive tech while at it, and you put that tech on top of a bad process, and I'll give you an example, right? Let's say your client intake isn't a great process, and you know that you're still running conflict checks via email and they have to be still manually passed. Uh, and just generally, the process is a lot of loops rather than being like a streamlined process. If you put tech on top of it, you'll be doing the same loopy process, but you'll be doing that loopy process 10x uh, faster and 10x worse in that sense, right? So it's very, very important to fix and get, in that sense, that your house in order before you get the tech in place. And really, in that sense, the two pillars of the people and the process come way before you looking at a successfully adopted tech product, right? So in that sense, the things that have worked out in my experience on the people front are five things. So one is that, um, what really works, and at least to get like a foot in the door, is to tell the users you're working with to look at their competitors, and especially please pick up competitors who are doing this better than you are, and tell them that, hey, they're doing this, they're using this. I think you should look at this technology or look at this kind of way of working. And that really gets them interested. And it tends to be an easier way to start the conversation. But what is really, really effective is to actually sit with them, work with them, and understand what is the portions of their work that they hate doing, right? And we've done so many of these discovery calls, and usually by the end of the call, the lawyer or the finance person or the HR person at our law firm at our organization would usually end up saying, "God, I hate my job," right? But that's the point. These are the portions of their work that really drain them down, that they feel are mundane, that they feel don't add any value to uh to the kind of work that they do, and are purely either administrative or procedural in nature. Those are the kind of tasks you should pick up and aim to fix, right? Because they tend to be things that are usually easy to fix. They're not complex, they're not nuanced. They're also usually things people want to get rid of usually, and they're the kind of things that if you fix for the people, the people will become your best friend and will be willing to take a bigger risk with you, or will be willing to give you more complex tasks to take on, and the like. um so that's that. What it also sort of does is, if you, let's say, solve for this, right? Let's say hate I hate generating invoices and bills for my clients. Why? Because it's just something that I don't like add a lot of value to. It's procedural. I know it's important for the organization to make money from, but really that's it, right? Like, I'm not really using all of my creative lawyering skills while I'm making a bill. um so if I can take that away and I can give, uh like, if somebody can take it away for me and give me back some time, I would be extremely happy and extremely elated. And for the person who's taking it away, it becomes that low hanging fruit, or the entire small win sort of circumstance, right? Where they already have something to show for, and you are more likely to believe them next time they want to show you a much bigger tech, or some tech that's going to completely change how you work. Um, the second thing that works extremely well and is fairly counterintuitive when you talk to tech vendors is that if you can fit the tech and the back end without changing how I really work, right? So, for example, I love taking notes, and I love taking notes on a pen and a paper. But if you can take that away and give me an iPad and a stylus, or just like a tablet and a stylus, effectively, I have changed nothing. But what you have changed is you have managed to capture all of my knowledge and all of my information that was otherwise in like 10 notebooks over 2 years into one consolidated place. And now, because you can OCR it, it's searchable, you can tag it, you can actually, using the tech on the back end, create interlinks, give me suggestions. If I want to search, especially now that you have generative AI, if all these notes are there and can be processed, I can make linkages that I was never able to make before, which is like great. And all I have done in terms of changing my own behavior is close to nothing. But you have managed to uh, make my entire process digital, and given me so much more value. So that's another great way to really get tech, make people tech enabled, is to not change how they inherently work, and sort of just see what is the best way to plug tech there. Which is not to say that you shouldn't change a bad process, but I'll come to the process bit a little bit later. The third thing that we have been, and I have seen a lot of good organizations consistently do, is something called the sandwich effect, right? So usually they have a two-pronged approach. They will have the top management buy-in on the entire tech adoption process, and they will work with the junior most resources, right? The people who are really in the trenches doing all the work, and they will work with them extremely closely, and they will leverage the fact that the junior most resources currently are tech natives in that sense, right? They've been working with tech all their life. So there is no reason to get a tech native to like print papers and hand mark up. So they leverage that. And really what that does is sort of sandwiches the entire middle layer, and you're pushing tech from the top down and from the bottom up. And that really accelerates the tech adoption. The third is really creating, the fourth is really creating uh, a culture of innovation, right? It sounds easy, but culture is one of the toughest things to build in an organization, especially if you're an organization that has existed for years. Um, so the couple of things that have worked for us, right, is to finding champions. Who are your champions? Champions are people that love your product, that are already asking for better ways to do things, that are asking for technology that can sort of speed up how they work. The second is having some kind of celebration, right? Just because I'm excited and just because I want to go the extra mile and I want to try out a better way of doing things isn't enough, right? There has to be some incentive for me to constantly keep doing it despite my extremely busy schedules. And like, make no mistake, lawyers have very, very busy schedules, right? So celebrations can be anything that can range from, of course, right, like an email celebrating a small win or the fact that this person was championing a project, to actually getting them into the decision making room, right, and giving them access to decision stakeholders that they would have never had otherwise, and really enabling them even further and giving them a deeper insight on how the firm is envisioning or how the organization is envisioning the tech adoption or the entire strategy around a certain product or around a certain way of doing something better. The third way to really do is to build in incentives, right? Um, just the simplest things that's worked for a lot of law firms and organizations is to give them innovation hours or to give them time, because a lot of lawyers will take out time from their billable hour requirement to try out a new tech or to work with you on an innovation project. You can have innovation hours and give them back that time, and it can get tallied against their billable hour requirement. A lot of law firms also have innovation hours, innovation awards, which is also a great way to recognize the effort of your multiple users. And over time, you would be able to sort of induce a culture of people really thinking why they're doing what they're doing a certain way and trying to find better ways of doing that. The fifth is change management teams and investing in that. And along with that, one thing that works very, very well is having your lawyers just work in different teams, right? Cross-functional teams, work on a certain project. So let's say you're implementing tech along with on, let's take the example of billing and invoicing, right? Have them work on that project. Let them talk to the finance team and the tech team that's implementing the tool to see what is painful and have them run that project as an equal stakeholder. So that was mostly the people aspect of it. Coming to the process aspect of it, you will understand that a lot of what people do is so much in their minds, right? And usually what's in your mind isn't as clear. And I'm sure everybody has experienced it, right? When you write down your thoughts, it's so much clearer, it's streamlined, it's not convoluted in nature and not loopy in nature at all. And I think the same is true for processes. A lot of what we do is extremely redundant. It tends to be unnecessarily overarching, and just general project management principles apply here, right? And the way we've been doing it is fairly simple. So you do a discovery call, or you just generally talk to somebody and ask them, hey, what do you hate about running a diligence? And you will usually find things that are a range of oh my god, I hate it when VDRs won't let me print something, which is also something that is fine. To like oh, I don't. I really hate it when in the middle of the night I will get a document to proofread, right? Uh, and that entire range of issues are really, in that sense, as a adoption lead or an innovation lead, they are your gold pots. You have to leverage them the best way you can. And here, like I know I said that you need to have lawyers not change how they work too much. But here, you know that the way that working is not the most optimum way of working, right? So what we do is a fairly simple process. We do a process map with the lawyer, like we do a discovery call with the lawyer, we build a process map. And usually when the lawyer or the business function person will look at the process map, they'll be like, hey, why are we doing these like three extra steps? Right? There is no value to these three extra steps or the four extra steps. And we would just see whatever is the best way to like get rid of them, or you delegate them, or you sort of automate those functions if they are required but not like 100% necessary to go through manual intervention. And here, and I know I've heard this also a lot of times, right? There are some really smart lawyers who'll be like, hey, I use this proofreading tool, and my seniors are usually very, very, again, digital natives, right? They know how to use tech their way. They'll be like, oh, my seniors get so surprised when I'm able to turn around like a 100-page document in 15 minutes, picking up errors they would have never picked up, right? And here is really where contract proofreading tools can be so, so beneficial. It's something that everybody hates to do, but it's a necessary part of their entire checklist and process. So it's a great thing to just outsource. And I will go so far as to say that even if it's not 100%, and most tech is not 100%, if it gives you back something that's a 70% or a 80%, I would happily take it. And a lot of lawyers would also happily take it. If I have to just do like a skimming after that in the context of proofreading, it still saves me so much time rather than having to go line by line by line. And that same thing can apply across actual lawyer workflows, right? Something as simple as, how am I getting documents for diligence? First, I get them as a data dump. Then I ask for more documents. Then I keep getting them in an email, right? Then when I go back, I have to find some document or some email. I keep searching through my inbox. If only there is a process to do this in a streamlined way, or if there are dedicated project managers. So we do project management services on bigger projects. They are responsible for keeping all your communications in place. They are responsible for building like a wiki for you to say, hey, this was decided, this was decided, this was decided. They keep track of what happened and when it happened. So you can work on what really matters, right? Which is complex legal queries. And we have our fears, right? Like when email came out, everybody's like, oh my God, data will get leaked. It'll go to someplace else. It'll be on this server, that server, yada. And I'm not saying we didn't have those screw ups,
Right.
right? We did have those screw ups, but that's just a risk. And now it's like standard business operation. Sure, emails go wrong a few times, but the benefit you get out of using email and not letters is massive. I wouldn't shy away from the fact that financial considerations are a big part of tech implementation, particularly if it's a US based tech product or like a European tech product, because the currency conversion isn't the most optimum for us. And even generally, getting customer support or any other further services tends to be like, it does tend to have a decent amount of dent on organizations' pockets. And I'm also very, very aware that the Indian legal services market isn't as big, right? We don't always come with deep pockets, like the US market, specifically, if that's the comparison. But having said that, I think any organization or any decision maker that has a foresight of 5 years and wants to scale up the organization, they will know that constantly throwing people at the problem is not going to solve the problem in a scalable way. And the thing with throwing people at a problem is that there is an upper ceiling to it, right? That's true for lawyers, that's true for anybody who's doing any other function in a law firm as well. But let's take the example of the lawyers because everybody understands the billable hour. So let's say the billable hour target is 2000 hours in a year, right? So, what is my upper ceiling of the kind of return I would get on throwing another resource at the problem? Whatever my chargeable rate for those 2000 hours is, right? And that's it. Like it's capped there. It's not gonna scale till I keep adding an army. And also, but just like a side note, constantly adding people makes culture a problem and process streamlining a problem. But just side note, coming back to the main thing, right? That's a ceiling. But with tech, even though the initial investment is high, and it's of course not just the money you're paying to the tech vendor, right? It's change management, getting it implemented, trainings, all that other investment. I think what really flips the conversation is to not say cost, not say expense. Is to say this is an investment in your organization to allow it to scale at the rate you want it to scale. And I actually distinctly remember Mike Legal doing some kind of case study where a firm wanted to scale at the rate and they were just scaling at a rate which was exponential. So, like throwing people at the problem didn't work, which is exactly to my point, right? If you take a 5 year roadmap and you want to scale exponentially, just like there are only so many ways that it can be solved. And there's a great article. It's called Software is Eating the World. It's by Horowitz. You have to read that. Like, effectively, we will all get there, right? And I'm not saying lawyers are going to go away. I think lawyers will work on much more complex and nuanced problems than they are getting to work on right now.